I'm Taylor Brooks, and welcome back to the Entertainment Buzz. I'm so happy to be here with Michael Manasseri, Sheldon Kahn, and Gary Wolfson, who are here to tell us about their feature comedy, The Pickle Recipe.
Yes,
Howdy.
we are.
Hello.
Hi.
It's nice to be back.
Thank you guys for coming. We're glad to have you. The Pickle Recipe is opening at the Michigan Theater on Friday, December 16th. It sounds so interesting. Would you guys mind sharing what some of the inspiration was behind the film?
Gary, why don't you jump in here?
Sure, I'll do that real quick. Sheldon and I basically worked in advertising together. We always wanted to make a movie. Mm-hmm. We were sitting in my house discussing ideas, throwing out ideas, concepts.
Bad ones.
A lot of bad ones. And I don't know how we got onto the, who knows?
You just said,
I started talking about my grandmother's
I remember
pickles.
exactly what you said.
And she had this amazing pickle recipe, and when she died, she never gave it to anybody. And I remember how, as a kid growing up in Detroit and going over to her house, and how the memories of all that, and no one has the recipe, and I'd kill to have that recipe.
I understand.
So then we started laughing.
And I said, we're not making the Sopranos, Gary, so no one's dying in this.
No. But we said the pickle recipe kind of is a funny name for a movie, but in this case, it's a caper.
Yeah,
Someone
guy,
steals the recipe.
Somebody steals it, and who better to steal it than her grandson?
Wow.
A lady playing a grandmother, and her grandson is trying to rip her off of the secret pickle recipe that she guards it like a hawk. She won't even let anybody watch her make them. She's very protective.
But it actually is rooted in a real event in life, and then expands obviously to a little more liberty, in terms of the storytelling.
Okay, wow. That's so interesting. That's so cool. So is that would you say that was what pushed you in the direction of, making a full feature film from, you always do marketing and advertising, and I've seen you do a couple of shorter films. So is that what really guided this one?
Well, we always loved storytelling commercials. I think as long as you're interrupting somebody, you might as well entertain them. Mm-hmm. And the best commercials I think we worked on were ones that told stories, selling at the same time. And we worked on a lot of humorous commercials. So it was just sort of extending that experience into telling a real story without having to put up with anybody except ourselves. No clients. But expanding on that experience, and that's sort of what led us to it. I always wanted to make a movie, and got sidelined into making TV commercials.
So we got sidelined for 30 years making television commercials. Well,
right.
We were trying to figure out how to make a movie, and then that's where he comes into play.
Yes. By the way, where did you go to school to learn how to make movies? Where did you go to school?
University of Michigan.
Okay.
Oh.
Yes.
Yep.
That's right.
And I majored in television, radio, and film. Was the name of the degree. It was the speech department at that time. Speech, radio, TV, and film.
It only took him 30 years to get back. So here he is.
Life has a funny way of, always working out. Speaking of which, what made you decide to change from being in front of the camera to being a director behind it?
I was really fortunate when I was a kid. I started acting, and I did a lot of stuff in New York, a lot of commercials. I did a lot of off-Broadway and Broadway, and that took me out to Los Angeles, where I started doing movies and TV. And by the time I was doing it for about 12 years in a row, and fortunately, working, making some really, really good money and having a career, which was great. But for a young person, having just done that straight for so long, I knew I wanted to stay in entertainment, but I wanted to do something different. And I'd worked with so many really wonderful directors in television when I was an actor, that some of them every now and then would come up to me and basically say, you can do this. You can do this if you really want to take a shot at it. And so after I finished the TV series that I worked on in the 90s, it was called Weird Science. It was based on the movie from the 80s. Mm-hmm. I basically said, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. So I started to write, and I started with some friends of mine who were also actors, and everybody, the 4 or 5 of them, we all wanted to start to basically try to make our own stuff. And just like everybody else, we made some short films. In the beginning, they were terrible, and they'll never see the light of day. And yeah, one thing led to another, and eventually we got a film off the ground that led to another project. And I mean, I love acting. If the opportunity presented itself, I'd certainly do it again if somebody really wanted me to, and I love the part. But for the most part, I really enjoy directing, and I'm working with guys like these gentlemen here to really kind of make an entire project happen, like we did on this film. And it's it's a real special experience.
That's so great. What would you guys like for viewers to get out of the movie? I know you can't give away like any endings or anything, but what would you like for them to take away?
I'd like a viewer, after they see our film, to say, I was really satisfied. That was fun. That was funny. I feel, an emotional experience because the film is, we call it a heartfelt comedy, that it's not a wacky, zany comedy, but there's some emotion to it. So I want somebody to walk out of the theater with a smile on their face. And also, we have a lot of people who want a pickle after they see the movie. So, but I think that's really what it is that they had an enjoyable experience and they felt it was worth it for whatever it cost them to come see it,
So,
You want to add to that?
No.
Yeah, you good? We're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sweet, like you said, it's a sweet, heartwarming, feel-good
Yeah.
kind of movie. And it's also, the nice thing about it, I mean, for me, even when they started with the idea and I knew it was going to be funny, and we were pretty sure we had funny down. But going back to his story with his grandmother, for me, my grandmother, I'm Italian, so my grandmother made, sauce and meatballs and pasta and Sunday dinners. And so that family connection, I want also people to see the film. And so whether you're Jewish or Italian or Chinese, it doesn't matter. We all, if we have those nourishing experiences with our grandparents when we're kids, if we're lucky enough to, and we take that with us all our lives. So even people who see the film now who are 75 years old, they remember this experience with their grandparents. And there's that connection, which is special. And so when they walk out of the theater, I want them to remember that.
that's beautiful. Connection is always so important, and I know that you guys are all from around the Detroit area. So how long did it take you to come to the conclusion that that's where you wanted the movie to be set?
It was always, for us, there was never any really discussion.
Although one of the first few drafts, the protagonist lived in Cleveland,
Oh, wow.
but the grandmother lived in Detroit. But we said, why do that? And let's set the whole thing in Detroit. And
Yeah, that was probably one of how many drafts?
100.
Okay. So yeah, I forgot about the Cleveland part, but, and you're right. I think part of it was that's where our experiences are, and kind of holding true to, kind of growing up here, and I'll let Michael talk more in terms of, what the city had to offer in terms of the talent on both sides of the camera. But for us, it really was, we wanted to be involved in shooting, and obviously that was part of it as well, is that we could all be in the city and working together. That plays an important part. But we wanted to show our city off.
Yeah,
And,
we're in a comeback mode right now. When we started a couple of years ago during the bankruptcy, everybody thinks we're a wasteland. Detroit's kind of this, but now we've started to emerge from it. And people really like the way we showed the city in our film. And we always wanted it to be, set here. After the Cleveland drafts, of course.
And also just quickly to talk about Michigan as well. At the time when we shot this, it was the very end of the Michigan Film Incentive.
Okay.
So we shot this in the summer of 2015, and we were the third to last film to get the incentive before it went away. But even for people like you, who when you graduate from here and you're wondering what you're going to do, if you're going to stay in this industry and where you're going to go, unfortunately, I'm not going to rain on your parade here, but unfortunately, the incentive at the time, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. It was bringing work to Michigan. It was keeping U of M grads and state grads, and I do a lot of work with Oakland University and OU grads. It was keeping them in the state. It was really stemming the brain drain if you wanted to be in this industry. And you know, now we're still doing our best to keep shooting films in Michigan. It's a lot tougher, but that was another part of shooting it in Detroit and shooting it in Michigan.
Yeah, that's because the incentive is a rebate that you get from the state based on your expenses in the state. They look at that and they're going to cut us a check for a percentage of the amount of money we spend here, which is very attractive to investors. It cuts down your cost of production, and that's really sad that that went away because it was a lot of money. So
wrap it up.
Well, we want to thank you guys so much for coming and speaking it to us, and to all of you lovely e-buzzers. We would love if you would come and see The Pickle Recipe at the Michigan Theater on December 16th. You know you need a break from finals anyway, and this is the perfect way to take a break and laugh at some good comedy. Coming up next, we'll have our takes on what you guys should be looking for out on the screen.